Even though Montrose Boulevard used to be the main thoroughfare, over the years most of the activity moved over to Westheimer, where many of the clubs and restaurants located. While there are many neighborhoods in this part of town, Montrose has become the catch-all name for the area southwest of downtown Houston. It is home to some of the city's oldest cultural landmarks.
That used to be the Tower Theater. It's a real landmark with a long history in Montrose. I've seen so many shows there.
Whenever Best Little Whorehouse in Texas was looking for a home, they converted it into a stage theater. And they had, what, a 3-year run.
God, what a great place. Saw Bette Midler there twice when she was just becoming famous. Lily Tomlin live on stage. It was great live theater. It was a great place to go to.
One of my favorite places was the old Tower Theater, and it just killed me when it became a video store.
You could find everything in Montrose, and people really were walking on the streets at night, going from a gallery or a little club to a restaurant. Cody's was the jazz nightclub. It was on the top of the building at the corner of Hawthorne and Montrose. It was the place where, of course, you had a view of the city, unbelievable view of the city.
Late at night, you can see, people coming from the bars and clubs, people coming from the theaters downtown.
Dan Martin is a tattoo artist with a successful business in Montrose.
I tattooed a doctor just last week. I've tattooed one of my clients that I just started again as a therapist. I've done physical therapists. I've done all sorts of people. I don't think I've tattooed a lawyer yet.
One of the things that I always liked about Montrose is I think there was a rich mix of people.
The annual Greek Festival has been held the first week of October for more than 40 years. The festival stretches for blocks and attracts huge crowds to Montrose.
The Greek Festival is and always has been fun. Good food, just really neat.
I think of Montrose and favorite memories. I always think of the Westheimer Art Festival. That was one thing I thought was just spectacular. I used to love that because all my friends, we'd, gather up and, get together at the house and then just walk over to the festival and spend the whole day and have a great time.
Montrose was the party entertainment center of Houston. Where else can you find a disco Kroger? It was called that because after the parties ended and the clubs closed down, the crowds moved over to Kroger's on Montrose Boulevard. And to this day, is still called Disco Kroger.
Montrose has always been a 24-hour community. That's what I liked about it.
I've been here long enough to remember the old Art Wren's, of which everybody kind of went to after they'd gone to the bars.
Art Wren's was unique in that it was a mom and pop restaurant, very small actually, and every Sunday morning and afternoon, all the people from church would be there. However, Friday night and Saturday night is when the drag queens and the leather folks took over, and it was just a party within itself. There was a line out the door. Most outrageous things that went on there.
There was just a great acceptance here. It was sort of on the tail end of the 60s, sort of the hippie movement.
There's nothing too funky in Montrose. There's the Halloween banner from the 50s apartment hanging. They've, of course, painted the brick. And these properties, I don't know when they were built. I'm going to guess probably in the 20s or 30s. I mean, look at that tile roof and the old stucco on them. Numbers here on the left has been here for decades. It's a big place where the young people gather.
There was a period, though, in the late 70s, early 80s, where Montrose was bumper-to-bumper traffic on Lower Westheimer on Friday and Saturday nights, filled with teens from the suburbs. There was clearly a clash of cultures.
In addition to local street cruisers, thousands of runaway teens from all over the country began showing up on the streets of Montrose in the early 1980s. They were looking for a safe haven, fun times, or quick cash. Numerous social service agencies organized to help get these kids off the streets and away from drugs.
It's quieter than it used to be, but there's still a lot of nightlife. There's still people up and down the street.
It was basically an area where you could live a lifestyle that was out of the norm. And of course, that's what made it so comfortable for gays, is because no one was really asking any questions. No one was saying, well, you don't fit, because no one fit. And because no one fit, everyone did.
We were all in the closet, except the people who worked in the bars. And this was the place to come and play. And we could be ourselves here more than we could anywhere else. We could hold hands, we could kiss. It was acceptable here.
If you wanted to be a singer, if you wanted to be an actress or an actor, if you wanted to paint, if you just wanted to find a nurturing community for your creativity, Montrose has always been that place.
I think it has a history of its own. It's art and it's restaurants that are now here, and it is. I've always considered it to be the gay community. I always will consider it to be the gay community. And although not as many gay people live here as they used to, it still has that feeling. I don't think that's changed.
A lot of these larger old mansions, they've turned into multifamily, made them duplexes. The teardowns that are happening in this neighborhood, they're putting million-dollar houses on them, and they're selling them. This is the old Ross Sterling mansion, and Ross Sterling was one of our past governors, and he was the founder of Humble Oil.
From its very beginning, Montrose attracted people in the arts and those just arriving in Houston. People such as Howard Hughes and Walter Cronkite lived here. A struggling actor named Clark Gable settled into Montrose in the late 1920s, and a young school teacher made his home here for a few years. His name? Lyndon B. Johnson.
When I moved into Montrose in 1979, I lived in a little house that it was 2 stories divided into 4 apartments on Hyde Park, 2 blocks west of where I lived. There is a home where Clark Gable lived in the late 1920s, and it's one of those Montrose landmarks.